Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Liam, the Prove It Guy, author of Limitation is a Mirage. In this podcast, I will be sharing with you actionable tips, routines, and insights that I have gathered over 20 years of extensive study with masters, experts, and world-class performers. My hope with this podcast is to save you time, money, and frustration, helping you fast-track your way to mastery. Hey, it's Liam, the Prove It Guy, and welcome to this bonus episode of the Limitation is a Mirage podcast. This episode, I have Marika Rauscher. About 6 years ago, I wanted to improve my vocals so that I could speak on stage, be more clear, and engage with my audience much better. So I was introduced to Marika through a mutual friend, Ian Rowland, and I have not looked back since. So in this conversation, we talked to Marika about her career, about the interaction that we had when I first went over to London to meet her, and everything in between. So what she does now, how she does it, how you can improve your voice, and why you should improve your voice. So I hope you enjoy this conversation, and I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Welcome to the bonus episode of the Limitation is a Mirage podcast. I'm here with my vocal coach and mentor, Marika Rauscher. Marika, welcome, and please give a wee intro into who you are so everyone knows what we're talking about.
Oh, I thought you were going to say wave, so I'll wave at you anyway.
Hi. Wave anyway.
Brief intro to who I am.
Cool.
Well, as you said, I'm a vocal coach. I'm the voice of choice. So I'm actually a classically trained opera singer and crossover singer. So that means that I actually cross over and do musical theatre, jazz, cabarets, so different styles of singing, not just opera, and design different packages for weddings, corporate events, and different entertainment perspectives. So alongside the performance career, I'm also a vocal coach. So that includes singing lessons, actually teaching people how to sing, but also how to use your voice for communication and presentation skills. So it's actually how we're projecting our voice, the different coloration of our voice, the pace, the speed, the body language, and sort of how that presentation actually becomes a package. So not always looking at the content of what we're saying, but how we're saying it. And then another string to the bow is that I do choirs. So I'm a choir leader for different community choirs, specializing in well-being, singing for lung health, singing for breathing. So those different packages that I've been working with, which has been fantastic actually during lockdown, has a major uptake for obvious reasons.
Brilliant.
So
I'm going to interrupt you. There's three things that I wanted to jump onto. The crossover singing. There's a song that you did the last time I was over at Ian's Star Party, where that, when you just described what crossover singing was, now I've had a wee light bulb. I'm like, oh, I get, you did a song where it was like in 4 flats. And like,
yeah,
what was that? What
the
was
girl in, it's called The Girl in 14G, and it's 3 flats. You're absolutely right, and it's about sort of the girl in 14G is musical theatre. The girl in 13G is an opera singer, and the girl upstairs is a jazz singer, sort of jazz and pop. So yes, exactly right. And it's a great, really comedy number because it just jumps around into all these different flats and what it's like to hear all those different styles. And when they're starting out as enemies because they keep waking each other up, and they kind of befriend each other and become the most eccentric trio.
I remember, I love to, whenever someone's on stage like you that just owns the room, I love to swap between watching you on stage and then watching the audience. Because when you were changing from, because people that don't understand the voice, and I was the same when I first came to you. I didn't understand that. I thought an opera singer did opera and that was it. And a pop could sing pop and a jazz could sing jazz. And then when you start doing everybody at once, like one after the other, the facial expressions of the audience and just the pure amazement of it. I remember when you're on about teaching people to project your voice. I remember when I went over to you and you said about teaching me that, I thought, sure, I'll have a mic. What do I need to project for? And I remember my first talk after being with you was the TED talk. And as I was walking on the stage, the guy had told me the mic was left in the corner. I don't know if I've ever explained this to you, but they told me the mic was in the corner. When I walked over to get the mic, it wasn't there. So I had to just readjust on the fly. and project the voice instead. And it actually worked out better for me because the audio for my TED Talk has the ambience of the room, not just a strict microphone.
Yeah.
But I think because a lot of the people who will watch this are coaches like myself or public speakers, and I'm always talking to them about, because they'll say to me, how can you change how you talk to me when you get on stage? You sound more clear, and you're very vocal, and you're very good at putting the emphasis on the words that are needed. And I'm like, that's because I went to Marika. That's we use our voice. Just because we're not singers doesn't mean we shouldn't learn how to use our voice and project, and everything that you've said at the start. And then the third thing was the choir. I hold the record in my old school for being kicked out of the choir 37 times.
No! How on earth did you manage that?
Well, I was only in the choir because I was the teacher that ran the choir was the only teacher that I was allowed to be around, that had to look after me pretty much. I wasn't the best school scholar in the world, and because she had to look after me,
you're funny.
She used to put me in the choir, and I used to sing like this in the choir. And every so often I'd put I would do nothing, and then I'd put a real bad note in, so she thought I was really trying. But
oh, bless.
Then I got kicked out many times, so I think I'll avoid your choir. So since lockdowns happened, then you're working, I guess you're able to just implement all of this. What we did face-to-face is just now, because of technology, you can just work with anyone, anywhere. Is that what's going on now at the minute?
Yeah, and it's actually fantastic because it's opened up so many different areas, in that I've got clients in Spain, New York, you in Ireland, so it's just literally global. Whereas previously, as we always think, it has to be face to face. And now it doesn't have to be, and it sort of translates perfectly well online. And it's becoming more acceptable as well. So that has been fantastic for me, I think. And it's also, you start analysing. It's really made me think about how I connect online. How do I deliver that online? Because as you know, you've met me in person. It's sort of like I'm very interactive. There is no sort of I talk at you and you listen. It's very sort of, you've got to get involved. And it's been frustrating at the beginning of Zoom when only one person can sing or talk at any given time. So translating that into music for me has been a great frustration. But it's also really, really good because it kind of puts everything under a microscope, and it lets me become much more analytical, not just of my clients, but of the way I'm working as well. So it's really been an interesting opportunity to take that step back and self-analyze and sort of going, well, that didn't quite work. That's how I'm going to redefine it. And just pure stubbornness, because other people might have just given up and said, yeah, it doesn't work on Zoom, forget it. And I'm going, I will make it work on Zoom. Watch me.
I think that's why we connected so well. Like the way it worked with us was you booked me in to meet in person, and about 3 days after the booking, I flew over, and I'd been up all night, and I flew over, and I got lost in the middle of this. You had to come down and find me in the street. I remember being lost and then you took me into a room, and I'm tired, and I'm like, right, I don't know what I'm in for. And then within 10 minutes of just being around your energy and your interaction, I was back to being psyched and sing. I had no intention of singing when I was there, and you were like, let me hear you sing. And I'm like, what? But I'm here to talk and be.
You weren't petrified. You were like,
what?
Not quite sure that's what I signed up for. I was like,
yeah. And then
did you know what you were signing up for?
That was the one. Yeah. Then I was like, actually, maybe it is what I don't know what I've signed up for at all. You bring me over to a piano, and we start meowing at a piano, and I'm like, what is going on? But it was literally about 5 to 10 minutes into the meet where I just fed off your energy, and I was just pumped again. And then wasn't it 6 hours straight? And then I just left and flew home again.
Yeah. like usually I wouldn't do that intensity of sessions, but because you were coming over especially, we were like, right, come on, let's make this awesome.
Yeah, I use it as an example when I speak all the time, because I'm always talking about trying to improve all aspects of what I do. And when I was a speaker and I thought about, like, I remember you saying to me, open your mouth. And I was like, well, this is how we talk.
You thought that was open.
Oh, yeah.
You were convinced.
And you were like whenever I talk about it, I always say, like, you have to be willing to put the work in. And the fact that I was willing to fly over to London to meet someone I'd never met and do 6 hours intensive, like, and they always say to me, what was the hardest bit? And I'm like, my jaw was killing me just from being open. Like, actually, like when you were like, keep your jaw open. I'm like, I know that one. And I didn't realize that in OMA, we don't really move our bottom jaw. We just sort of here, like us here and talk. And then I remember the day you told me to make a gun and put, do you remember that?
Yes. Yes, I do remember that one. So yeah, it's my 2-finger trick. It's like literally, because I remember when I was doing stagecraft and people were like, you have to be larger than life. Your gestures have to be bigger, and you lifting your arm this much. I thought that was a big gesture, but when you're on stage, you might as well have just blinked. It doesn't translate and it's not a big gesture. But for you, that physicality is massive. So it's exactly the same thing when we're trying to, and we were talking about projection at the time. So I was talking about that the mouth is your loudspeaker and that the sound has to be able to resonate in the space that you give it. So that's what we were actually working on before people are watching this and going, she's telling you to put a gun in your mouth. What kind of a coach is she? But it was literally to get that space, because you don't physically feel it, and sometimes you don't even see it. That I sort of tell people, I said you should get the space of at least 2 fingers between your teeth. So that kind of an openness. And for some reason, I don't know where, my brain, I just was like, yeah, just imagine you're putting a gun in your mouth. We had a good old laugh about that one, didn't we?
Until about...
Like, I'm from Ireland. Northern Ireland.
Like, from Northern Ireland, it's not the best question. It was fun until about, like... And I don't think people like, I've studied martial arts for 20 years. I've been kicked in the groin. I've been kicked everywhere. I've, like... 30 seconds, I thought, like, I've been punched repeatedly and kicked in the head. And I was like...
You're saying I'm more painful.
I was like, my jaw's going to fall off. Like, this can't be... At one point, I was like, she's just taking the hand out of me. Eventually, she'd be like, I can't believe you did that. And then it was when you said the resonate in the space that's provided. I don't know why, but my brain went, duh. That's...
Yeah.
Duh. I was like, it was like a little light bulb just went off and went, all right, that makes sense. Open your mouth in general. And I remember coming back and, like, practicing it and even in conversations with friends and family and OMA, and them looking at me like, why are you talking like that? I'm like, I'm just talking with my mouth because it's capable of moving. So then I used to pretend I was the guy from Police Academy that Motormouth Johnson from Police Academy was.
Yes.
So I did that.
Isn't that the funniest thing? That's for me, like you were saying, when you see people, their reactions when I'm performing, that's my buzz when I see that light bulb go off in other people. And it's just because, talking is something very organic to us. It's very instinctive. But not many people have learned about the art of the voice, and the instrument. And once you understand the mechanics of the instrument, and just telling you, like, small things like that in the toolkit, as you said, it's like, that's transformative and you will never look back, because you just sort of like, why? But that makes perfect sense. You kind of walk out feeling like a bit of an idiot going, but that's obvious. But no one tells you. It's
that's what I was thinking. I remember standing, like, on the train back to the airport and just thinking, a lot of this stuff is really, really obvious, what Mark has said, but nobody's doing it. I was doing public speaking in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people. And I was talking, barely even opening my mouth, and even the gesture, because I was moving. When I talked about martial arts, I moved because I had to move with the art. But when
Yeah,
I just
right.
talked about everything else, you should really open your life up. And I'm like, barely even as wide as my chest. Really open
Yeah.
yourself up there. It was one of the things you'd said to me as well, was because of my background in martial art, I I didn't really move. Like when,
You
especially
were
when other,
so disciplined, so disciplined. And I was like, but where's the persona? You know,
uh,
where's your character? You know, you as a person, is there's so much more to it, and that needs to translate.
I remember whenever you were, once we got past that and projecting and opening up, and I think this might have been on a call then, about a week later, when you started to teach me then about the craft of crafting the words and how to put emphasis on the words. And we spent about 10 minutes with you saying, an end on the word. Do it. And I was like, on the word. You're like, no, you're going up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going up. And everything I was saying was getting higher.
I know, because your inflection, especially with the Irish language, it's sort of a lot with the Americans. You always end up on a high,
Yeah.
and sort of to get that variety in the voice and to make your point, you need to land somewhere. You know, you just left everything hanging in a way.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting you said that, because I think a lot of the time as well when people think of vocal coaching, and I think you might have even said it to me as well, is that people go, oh, does that mean I've got to lose my Irish accent? Or, you know,
Yeah.
should I be learning how to speak proper English? Or, and I was like, hell no. I was like, your unique selling point is who you are. You
Yeah.
know, having vocal coaching doesn't mean changing your voice or how you speak or your accents. I said that's what makes you beautiful and unique. It's just opening it up to its best,
Yeah.
you know, so that it has the best opportunity.
The way I thought about it was when you talked and explained that to me, because I was the same. I thought, am I going to have to lose my accent? And my thinking was, because people don't understand me, and you were like, no, once you use your voice properly, people will understand. The reason they don't understand what you're saying is because you're keeping all your words in your mouth and letting them, like, in my head, what you were describing was the words were falling out of a wee tiny mouth, and then they're wider. And I noticed it like the first maybe 3 or 4 talks, the more I was able to emphasize and had practiced all the points that you had went over, like there was a massive change when I'm in a room and there's other just Irish speakers that haven't looked at their vocals or anything. They do their talk and then I come on and people are like, God, he sounds very, like there's something about what I'm saying. Even if I say to them, what did I talk about? They're like, don't know. But did you like it? Really liked it. Like really engaged. They don't remember the content, but they remember. I just felt that was
Right,
again.
That's the skill. That is really a skill. I mean, and sort of like that's where my sort of singing and acting background comes in, is that it is stagecraft as much as it is the, you know, all of those kind of things. It's sort of like, well, how do you connect with an audience? You know, how do you make them feel? How do you want them to feel? What do you want out of the talk? You know, sort of until you sort of master all those different little things, then it can really fall flat for people.
Yeah.
So I love your story, because you've got, I love it when people sort of witness that firsthand and you sort of start playing around with it. And I remembered watching your early TED Talks and watching you grow, and it's just been a wonderful journey. It really has.
I like the idea of the stagecraft, because again, when I try to explain it, you've just explained it quite well there. There's obviously more to it that you could go into, but the fact that when I ask people now that I work with my students and stuff, like, right, we're helping you plan a talk. What do you want to get out of the talk? And they say, oh, I just want to feel really proud that I did it. And you're like, no, what do you want? It's not about you. It's about what you're delivering and who you're delivering it to and why you're delivering it. And then like they'll go up and they'll have all this plan, and then they stand behind a pulpit and just talk and say their whole thing. And you're like, how is that engaging? Did you feel that was good? Yeah. So whenever people are coming to you for stagecraft stuff, what do you find is the most, the usual thing that people don't know about, like the light bulb moment? What is the bit that you teach them where they go, oh, that makes so much sense?
I think really the mouth as your loudspeaker. I think people often come to me because they want to have a stronger voice, or they say, I want to be able to project more. That is something that I hear a lot. So for me, it's sort of until you actually understand, because a lot of people think that projection is volume,
Yeah.
and it's not, it's resonance. So,
Yeah.
finding the correct resonance means the sound will carry. So even if I'm in a nightclub, or, when you're speaking in environments, like I work with a lot of magicians at the moment, they're sort of like honing their craft because they have to talk over background noise.
Yeah.
They're working in pubs, parties, socials, especially if you're working a room, sort of working with people who work a lot on telephones or are doing like public speaking. So when you have to talk constantly and on the go and you're projecting, people get vocally fatigued, and they just want to know, how can they build the strength, how can you save your voice from tiring out? And that is the art of singing. So if you understand the instrument, you understand what muscles you need to build to keep that going and sustain it. There's lots more to it, but I think that the light bulb moment is always very exciting, is when you're telling people that they don't realize how much jaw tension they're carrying, or root tongue tension, and
Yeah.
that sort of like, or postural alignment, how that really affects the sound. So yeah, little almost minute corrections can make such a world of difference, and that's what I get excited about. And these are things that people previously, I think, in my singing career and in my training, people used really big scientific words that I didn't understand, like tilt your larynx forwards and I was like, what's a larynx? Or, use your diaphragm, support more. And I was like, well, okay, that's all well and good. I've heard these words, but I didn't dare to ask the teacher what the hell they meant.
Yeah.
I was brought up with never talk back to the teacher. So it was one of those where I like to say it very plainly and very openly. But people learn differently, right? If people say, right, I actually really get the science, I've got a scientific, methodical mind, then it's like, great, we'll work with that. But I work a lot with texture and color. That's my thing. So,
Yeah.
It's building pictures and textures of the voice, and saying, okay, well, my higher register is more yellow, my lower register is more blue and purple. So down my lower register is more velvet, and my higher register is more like spun silk. So it's once you've got all of those, and people say, how do you do all those character voices, or how do you switch into different styles? It's really being able to understand and manipulate those different colors and textures, which are vocal modes, but sort of,
Yeah.
again, different way of accessing. I can give you all the scientific information,
Yeah.
but I'd rather make it translatable to everyone. So
that was one of the things I really liked about your teaching, was when you taught, I understood that you knew, and you had such an in-depth knowledge of how it worked, not only like the colors and the imaginative side of it, which I really enjoy, but because of the martial arts background, I like the fact that you were able to tell me the science as well. I didn't really care about the science because I just wanted to get to the end point. I knew I didn't need to learn it, but I love the fact that, and it's what makes you such a great teacher, is that you have broken everything down to such a minute, everything about it, so that when you can look at me and go, well, he needs to open his jaw. You can look at that guy and go, he needs to move his diaphragm. But you can also read us and go, if I say diaphragm to him, he's leaving. But if I say to him to open his, so you understand how people work. And that's what I love about having someone. That's why we've connected for the last 6 years or however long it's been, because I know that you know your craft like inside out. And I know that anyone I direct towards you is going to get something from it. Like, I don't think...
amazing. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Well, likewise. But,
thank you.
That's years of training and years of doing what I've been doing. So, yeah. I just look young, Liam. It's just sort of, this youthful complexion.
we're about 21, didn't we work that out? I fixed my hair too. I suppose I should ask you a few of the questions that I was supposed to ask. Went completely off topic. I'll ask you this one. What failure or apparent failure has actually set you up for later success. So when have you felt that you failed at something, and then when you look back at it now, you go, actually, that's what has actually set me up for success here?
Oh my God, Liam, there's been so many failures. Epic failures.
Choose one.
But you constantly learn. Yeah, no, but totally. You know, I did one talk, one of my early talks was failing to succeed. So I'm now an advocate of you have to throw yourself in at the deep end. You might fall flat on your face. And how long do you stay down? You know, how long does it take you to get up? If you're going to get up, why are you getting back up? You know, what's your mentality and cause? What's your mindset behind it? So, but I think for me, one of my failures, I guess, it was very, very early on when I went for the job as in-house opera singer at Harrods, which is the retail building in Knightsbridge, right? That used to have the royal crest on it before the whole Dodi Diana fiasco. And that was actually through a family friend who worked at Harrods and told my mum. She saw a poster in the staff room saying, we're looking for this idea of opera singers. Does anyone know anyone? So she got hold of my mum. Mum told me. I went. I was doing HR for City Banks at the time, working full time whilst I was still studying, performing and building up the resume to be able to step out as a performer full time. And I remember calling in sick to work and going to the audition at Harrods, and by the Egyptian escalators where they've got those sort of niches where they've got a mannequin with all the latest dresses and stuff on them. They took a mannequin out and put me in with a sound system and said, sing. So I had never heard of opera backing tracks back in the day. Yes, you've got pop songs, you know, and you could go like karaoke version stuff, but a backing track of an orchestra playing for opera, I hadn't heard about it. So it was a really fast research that I had to do, and I found a range of books called Cantal Opera, and they had the orchestra just playing the arias. So I learned 2 arias for the audition, and he gave me the job on the spot. He was like, perfect, brilliant, we love it. I was like, oh my God, awesome. When do you want me to start? And he said, well, we need you to start on Friday. So the job was going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I said, okay. And what exactly are the hours? What do you need from the sets? You know, he said, okay, well, it's a 45-minute set. Then you get a 45-minute break. Then you do another 45-minute set, another break. And it was 4 sets of 45 minutes. So that's a long ass day singing opera. And I'd only got 2 songs ready with a backing track. So that's a maximum of 6 minutes. I was just like, and I was there, I remember distinctly, I was there on a Tuesday and he wanted me to start on a Friday, and I had a full-time job and I had no idea how to access more of these backing tracks or learn them. You know, my repertoire was minimal at that stage. So, and that was a major deal for me. To land that job was going to set me up, right? This was like the first big job. So I was like, well, someone's going to notice if I busk it on the job, right? I'm all up for blagging, but if I sang 2 songs on repeat for 45 minutes, somebody might notice.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's blagging it even a little bit too far for my liking. So I said, look, I'm sorry, I've already got other engagements this weekend. Can I start the following week? And he went, no, we need someone to start on Friday. It's a take it or leave it situation. But I had to leave it because I was like, I don't want to set myself up for an epic fail. It's not worth it. I just needed that extra week to get my repertoire together and get my tracks together. And so I lost the job. And it took me 8 months to get that job back. I was so peed off at myself because I wasn't ready, right? I had no idea that existed. I had no idea what was required. And I just wasn't prepared. So totally underprepared for the job, lost the job. And I was like, that's not on. He offered me that job. That job is mine and I want it back.
Yeah.
So I phoned this guy up religiously every 2 months. And I was just like, "Hi, Michael, it's Marika, the opera singer. Do you need an opera singer?" And he was like, "Yeah, no, we've got our opera singers. Thanks anyway, bye." And I was asking the same question. I was like, "Have you still got the opera singers? Do you need anyone?" And it was very me-centric. So it was always, "Do you need me? Do you need me? Do you need me?" And then about 6 months down the line, 8 months, I think, maybe, I phoned them up nearer to Christmas, and he was like, "Marika, we've still got the singers. We don't need you." He didn't even say hello anymore. It was like, "Oh God, here she is again." And I was like, "No, no, no, I wasn't phoning about that, Michael." And he was like, "Oh right." And I was like, "Look, the singers have been with you for 8 months. Has anyone taken a holiday leave?" And they were like, "Nope." I was like, "Oh right, okay," because it's coming up to Christmas and they're working every single weekend, so they might want a break. I was like, "What about, has anyone been off sick?" And he was like, "No." I said, "It's winter season, singers are not robots. They're going to get colds. They might get sick. What are you going to do if somebody needs a holiday or goes off sick? Surely you need a DEP." I said, "Look, if anything happens, you've got my details. I just live down the road. Give me a buzz." 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from Michael. He goes, "Marika, she's gone off sick. Can you come in?"
Brilliant.
And I got my job back.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that
persistent
attitude. Yeah. I think that's what people lose out on. One point that you said about when you get knocked down, you get up. Most people just say, just get back up and keep going. But you're asking why? Like, why are you getting back up? What is the goal of getting back up rather than just get up and keep going? The fact that you're thinking about once you lost the job and you're going to pick yourself back up and move forward, why and what, and you realized you wanted the job. And then the bit that a lot of people miss is, like, you can be persistent without being annoying. Like you can keep at them, and then eventually you worked out that rather than it being all about me, like, it's the first, if I work with a company or a client, I talk about what they will get out of it. Why, like, I might say something like, "Why would you work with me? Is it because you want to be better on camera? Is it because you want to be better on stage? Is it because you want to, like, engage with your audience?" So I haven't said anything what I do or what I can't. I'm sort of subtly saying, putting them into that place. So the fact that then you got there with the phone call of, if you just, people will get sick. Yeah. I was waiting for the bit where you were going to say you went in and just heckled them, sung louder than them, and that's the wrong words.
It's a fine line between persistence and stalking.
Yeah,
I think I nailed it. Yeah.
Well, you got the job back, so yeah.
Not sure Michael agrees, but yeah, well, I don't think he'll forget me in his lifetime.
No, he probably tells it at Christmas parties. They're like, "Wait to hear this story. There was this lady. She could sing."
But oh my God, could she talk?
Well, if you can talk that well, imagine what you can do singing. A question that I love to ask people that are working with clients and working with having different students is, what bad recommendations do you hear in your industry, and what would you offer instead? So,
that's always a really tough question, because I make a point about surrounding myself with the experts in the field. So I'm constantly going out and learning. I'm always doing courses. Recently did another voice course with a vocal rehabilitation coach. And he said to me, he goes, "Actually, I'm a bit nervous about having you in my session because you're so knowledgeable already." It's like, oh! And he works very much with pop singers. So he didn't have any knowledge of the classical or operatic voice. And I was like, well, the actual function of the instrument is the same. So I want to know how you're getting it from the pop side, which isn't something I have access to, so we can always teach each other something.
Yeah.
So I don't think there are currently in my group of people that I surround myself with, I'm not hearing bad recommendations. I think the biggest thing I would put out there is it's limiting beliefs.
Mm.
It's the self-talk. So it's not people getting bad recommendations. It's people telling themselves, they can't do it, they don't have access to it, they don't have time for it, or they've surrounded themselves with a network of people which suppresses their own belief system of what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. That's time wasting. It's like, listen, if you've got an interest in it, do it. You know, who's to say don't? And the fact that people always think, oh, I have to, what's that going to bring me? It's also like, well, you won't know until you try it. You know, it's sort of, you might actually find a new hobby, or it might open up where you go in your career, or you might even decide to change careers. So I think people are very limited in their mindset of trying things. So I don't think I'm not really feeling the bad reputation or the bad recommendations. It's more the thing that I'm constantly up against is people's limiting self-belief.
I love that you've created a circle of people that don't have that. So you're in your industry, you're just surrounding yourself with the experts so that you don't need to hear any bad recommendations, because the people that same as what I try to do with my life is surround myself with people that really know what they're doing. Like your answer there could be the answer for any question related to any industry or anything that you want to do in your life, is just
absolutely
do it. Like, because I know personally when, like, the only reason I went over to you was because Ian Rowland said, go to Marika. And I was like, what for? And he goes, for voice. And I was like, look, Ian, my voice is Irish. My voice is Oma Irish. Just like, what's that going to do? And he was like, just go. And if you don't like it, what have you lost? And then, because I came to you the same thing, and you were like, what do you want to get out of this? And I'm like, be better talker. I don't know, just whatever. And then just working with you just made you realize how, like, you call it an instrument. It was the first time I ever heard anyone call the voice or the vocals or that whole thing an instrument. And like, whenever you talked earlier as well about people getting fatigue in their voice, I used to hate getting asked to compare because it was so long and you're repeating and you're shouting and you're doing stuff. And then, like, now I've done numerous weekend compares where I'm on 3 days and I'm doing the whole thing, and I'm 100% fine. And another thing I think a limiting belief for people is they don't want to look stupid. Like when you said to me, I want you to sing in front of me, I was like my sister will slag me about this all the time. She always tells me that I can sing. She teaches kids singing and she's done choir work and stuff as well. Yeah. And she will say to me, you never sing properly. You always mess about. So whenever you called me out and I'm like the Prove It guy, and you're like, sing, I'm like, oh shit.
Prove it.
And now I'm brilliant at pretending that I can sing opera songs, Italian. It's if you put on Nessun Dorma, I sound like I know the words to Nessun Dorma, but I do not.
I've seen you do your little carpools.
Yeah,
singing away. Can't sing, he says. I was like, I was texting you. I was like,
yeah. But again, it was an unknown limiting belief that I had. It was just because it was placed upon me from years of just where I grew up and my schooling, and because I didn't believe I needed a better voice. It never crept into my head that actually that's a limiting belief you have to, like, sing. And I would have sung karaoke, but I would have done it when I worked in the bars, but it was always a take the piss. I was always having the crack. Like, my karaoke song was a song by Kid Rock and Cheryl Cole, or no, Crow, something. It was a man and a woman. Yeah. And I did both parts. So I did the man bit, and then I did the woman part. So I was like, in my head, I was never really singing or really trying to sing. Like, I've sung for birthdays with my cousin, who's like an instrument genius, Niall. He's the guy that did the intro for the podcast. I'll just text him like, can you play this song? Play this. And he might just play it on WhatsApp for me and then send it on. But all the songs we played were all take the piss. So until that moment where you were like, I think it was Danny Boy you made me sing. And I was like,
cliched, but I was like, surely you know it, right?
Yeah, I was like, is that because I'm Irish? And you were like, yes, because you probably know this song. I'm like, but the whole time, there's whenever you told me to sing Danny Boy, and I was still trying to be professional because like I didn't know you, and we were all like, "Hello, jolly good, let's go, let's do this, fix my voice."
Yeah.
There's a movie called Into the West, and the guy in Into the West sings "Oh Danny Boy," and that's how I always sing it to my wee sister all the time. So whenever you told me to sing it, I was like, "Oh."
It's gonna come out.
Yeah, I was like, "How do I do this straight laced?"
Oh God, that's so funny.
So another question for you is, because you're very energetic and you're always working, whenever you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what is it that you do to bring you back to focus?
I'm often overwhelmed. I'm more often overwhelmed than underwhelmed, and I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But I think with the, do you know what? I think in the last 5 years, something that's really come out for me is exercise. I was so active as a kid, and sort of always doing before school gymnastics. I did fencing in my lunch breaks. I was in the rounders and netball teams and, after school. And it's not until later on that all of those things came into conflict when I started getting into music. So I had to choose. You can't be in the orchestra and choir and in the netball and rounders teams because they happen at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't want to make a choice. I want to do both. I can be active and a musician. And that just, in the way the setups of schools were, you couldn't. So I had to choose music. And then I forgot for how many years that, being active and exercise, how much adrenaline that brings me. And I have a lot of energy, as you said, yeah. And that I never had a full release for that energy. And then I think that turned into a lot of anxiety and tension that I never had anywhere to put it. Yeah. And so exercise has been for me massive. I ran the London Marathon for my 40th Brilliant. Birthday. And that really kind of set it all off. I remember I had a bad knee for many, many years. And my physiotherapist, the first physio I went to, said, well, you're not built for running. So can you please find another sport or another hobby? And I was That's like, nice. I don't think you know me very well.
Yeah.
I
or
said
his
I was going
job
to run the
very
London
well.
Yeah, right. And I was like, I said I'm going to run the London Marathon for my 40th birthday, and I'm going to do it with or without your help. So if you won't help me, I'll find someone who will. And it was literally just building up different muscle groups, and that was the problem. But through having that goal, it forced me to go out and train for a whole year to get physically fit enough to sustain that. Yeah. And that really kind of went, oh my gosh, this is such a good time and space for me to get my headspace together. Because when I do so many different projects, which is wonderful, I love the variation, but it does mean that my brain is constantly bing, 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 and going at 20 miles an hour in different directions. Yeah. That to calm it down and to really focus, that's when you're saying the overwhelm and the unfocus, is that you lose direction of what is my goal? What is my aim? Where am I going with this? Or have I helped that client enough? Am I pinpointing the right things? That exercise is that me time, and it sort of really is great. So, I mean, I haven't actually run since the London Marathon. I think 26.2 miles finished me off in the running world. But, yeah. I found different things. And also, I get bored very quickly, so I had to look for the next challenge, and then I got into weights, and that was awesome because I never thought a girl could lift. And it's all these again self-limiting beliefs of what you think you're capable of or not capable of, or what you should or shouldn't do. And I found my competitive side again. I sort of loved that. Going to a gym class was great for me because it was mixed with guys and girls, and I was just sort of like, he's lifting heavier than me. I was like, oh well, I'm not having that.
Lift him and the weight.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was convinced that I looked like Mr. Potato Head, and that parts of my body would just disconnect any minute, and that I'd be left there as just a head bouncing up and down. But and then finish like the Pepperami advert. Come and finish me off. But yes, so meditation and exercise was the answer to that question.
I just love that the overarching thing is just try stuff. So even when you were like a lot of people who are overwhelmed or feeling unfocused or anxious, they think it's something wrong with them, whereas you looked for, how do I make this better? And you didn't just look in your niche of what voice work will help this better. You went, what's that over there? And then what's that over there? And what does this do? And what's this do? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because it's funny, whenever you were saying you had to choose between music and like exercise, I was thinking, I've seen you on stage. You didn't make any choice. You just put all the exercise into the music. Like
that's such a good point. I do bounce around a hell of a lot on stage.
The amount of energy that you must use, like you need exercise just to balance out the physicality that you need for the stage.
And in stilettos, I'll have you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's quite, even makes it even more impressive. I've tried stilettos, just not for me.
Oh.
The last question I'm going to ask you before I let you go is just, it's just like I just love superheroes, so I like to ask people, if you had a superpower, what would it be? Or if you were a superhero, what would it be?
Oh, teleportation. 100%. I think I think the internet is kind of helping with that now. So
yeah.
I always say to myself, whenever I thought, oh, I haven't quite achieved what I thought I would at this stage, or, you feel disappointed in your own achievements, so you have grand ideas. Actually, when you go back and tick off the list, you're sort of going, they've just come in slightly different packages to what I thought, but I've achieved and ticked off all the boxes that I wanted to, and I'm still not done yet. When people go, well, what is it you haven't done yet? I was like, oh, there's always a higher goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, but teleportation sort of in the days pre-COVID lockdown, I think it's because I would have loved to have just bounced all over the world helping people, or I felt very limited in that I couldn't be in places fast enough. That a lot of my work is reliant on my physical presence. But now I've realized that, my virtual presence is going to become my superpower.
So you've pretty much achieved the superpower you want to achieve, which is teleportation, because you're doing that now. Yeah.
Right. So it's just come in a different package.
Yeah.
So it's like always rethinking the limitation. It's like, well, that is my teleportation tool.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you're always striving to a higher goal. Like whenever you said there about things you've achieved, like even in the time I've known you, every so often I just see you like put up a certificate or put up an award or put up a venue that you've played at or something, and then you're still not sitting going, yeah, no, I've kind of done that. No, I've done all of that. Yeah, no. You're like, what's the next one? So what's, like, if you think about the weights, you've lifted 10 kilo and you're like, right, what's 20? Like, what's 30? And you just keep going. So I just love that. Where can people find?
So annoying.
No, that's how what I do. I live my life like that. Everything. It's why, like, all the weapons you can see behind me,
they're amazing.
They just look like weapons to people, but they are like, you have to learn them in a certain order in the martial art I was doing. So when I see them, they're the scale of, you did that, and then you did this, and then you did that. And I meet people that I trained with 20 years ago that say stuff like, remember when we used to train martial arts? And I'd be like, yes, I still do. Oh, yeah. I wish I kept that up. And you're like, well, that was 20 years ago. You did not keep it up. You just quit. But I see it as a scale. I'm always trying to improve. It's why, like I said, how we ended up meeting. I wanted to improve my voice because Ian told me I needed to improve my voice initially. That was the main thing. He was like, do you want to just speak to people from OMA or the world? And I was like, the world, obviously. And he was like, well, I know you and I can barely understand you. I'm like, well, that's a fair. I was like, that is
no offense, but it was true.
But yeah, you can see the people's faces when I land England. They go, he is talking. I can see I hear stuff and the mouth's moving a wee bit, but I'm just not. And then I would have got a lot when I worked first in England. I would have got a lot of yes.
Yeah.
I go, you don't know what I've asked you to do.
So I have no idea what you just said, but let's just nod and be polite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where can people find you? You're on social medias, websites. Where's the easiest way to find you for the people watching?
Well, my website is of the obvious point of contact. So that's www.marikarauscher.com. But yeah, pretty much any social media going, I'm on it. If it's free
Cool.
marketing, I'm all over it.
I will.
So
I will put all the
Facebook,
links.
Twitter.
I'll put all the links to
Oh,
everything
awesome.
just to make it easier for people. But it's just good to hear. I just want to make one last point before we leave. Just when you said your full name, do you remember when I was doing my audiobook and I was getting to the part where I was thanking you, and then I was like, Mara Kirush. I ended up having to. So I ended up ringing you and saying, Marika, how do I actually say your name? And then I'm sitting in my office all looking real professional, listening to a WhatsApp you sent back going, Rauscher. It's Marika Rausch. And I could see your whole face doing it as I was listening. And then this is how I did it. I listened and I went, Rauscher, Marika Rauscher. And then I hit record, and then I stopped and went, and just the next one that came out, Marika Rauscher. So if you listen to the actual audiobook, you'll hear me saying, and I would really like to thank Marika Rauscher, and then I go on with the rest of the conversation. So that just reminded me whenever you said your full name. I love our conversations. Thank you very much for jumping on with me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I look forward to speaking to you again, and I will put all the links so that everyone can find you. So thanks again, and everyone enjoy the rest of your evening.
Oh, thanks for having me.